The fact of the matter is, whether you've been in network marketing for years or just a few days, your family and friends have seen your opportunity and your phone is, as we call it, burnt. If you're anything like me, that's a scary thought. So the big question is, how do entrepreneurs like us, who love the network marketing profession, who no longer want to be that guy, and are tired of convincing people during uncomfortable let's get coffee meetings where they say, what's this all about? How do we market in a way that aligns us with our dream clients and expands our network of upfront and transparent professionals, allowing us to get our time back, our families back, and gain a real passive asset? People like us who value impact over income, we deserve to see our visions once and for all. Join me in this podcast where we'll uncover just how to do that. My name is Eric Sablon. Welcome to Burnt Phone Marketing. Hey everybody, welcome to Burnt Phone Marketing. Another great episode today. When you look far and wide and you really connect with people, you really get in front of the right people. So like I always say, when you ask better questions, you get better answers. But when you ask better questions to the right people, you get the right answers. And sometimes you get connected with the right people. So today I'm super excited. There's a lot of stuff going on with Facebook marketing. There's a lot of stuff going on with Apple and Facebook and all of that stuff. Well, we have somebody, if that's something that's concerning you, we have somebody today that has been dealing with that for a while. And we have a couple strategies that you guys might be able to take right away. So she is been in the digital ad creation space for 5 years. She was nominated for the Marketing Visionary of the Year award. Huge, like big nugget. Experience in all kinds of industries. So she's not just coaching, she's not just this, she's not just that, all kinds of industries. She loves to focus on local businesses, especially those that help the community. And she's always open to new methods and pivoting strategies, which we all know that that's exactly what marketing is. Like, let's pivot, let's make an adjustment, let's do something. So please welcome Miss Sarah Testen to the show. Sarah, welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Well, when I was sitting down talking to Jen, I was like, Jen, tell me somebody awesome that I could interview about social media, about marketing. And she's like, oh, let me connect you with Sarah. And I was like, all right, cool, perfect. And then you took the meeting. So yeah, awesome. This is an honor for me to have you on the show. Super excited for what we're going to talk about, because I think that it's really important that people understand what's going on the back end of the front end.
Right. Precisely. There's a lot happening in the marketing world in general, but definitely a lot happening with data security as well. And that's a little bit about what Apple is trying to help people with, but it's kind of a challenge for marketers for sure, because we're having to jump through just a few more hoops and loops that we did not have to before. So yeah, I'm excited to kind of clear some of the air on that, or at least make it a little bit more clear for people to understand what all is going on.
That's awesome. And if you're thinking that you're noticing different ads, you're noticing different things, we're going to kind of clear the air in that. But first I want to start off, like, Sarah, tell the audience a little bit about your background and, what makes you, let's just say, nominated for the Marketing Visionary of the Year award. Like, tell us about that. Tell us a little bit about your backstory.
Yeah, for sure. Well, one of the things that I've always really enjoyed growing up is just learning about everything that I can. And that actually makes a great marketer, especially in our industry with our particular agency. We work with tons and tons of different kinds of businesses. So any opportunity that I have to learn about something new, I definitely take it. I kind of fell into this job a little bit. I started out, believe it or not, just as a receptionist. And then, of course, Beacon has allowed me to grow within the company quite a bit. It became a question of, do you know how to do photography? And then I did. And I started out doing that, and then videography. And of course, I started in the ads world. And that was maybe 3 or 4 years ago that I started doing ads. And that was an entirely different universe than what it is today. I've seen a lot of different changes in the algorithm on Facebook in particular. Just things being added and taken away. But yeah, it just throughout 5 years working with so many different businesses has been fantastic, learning so many new things you never thought you would need to know about. HVAC specific things. We have a lot of HVAC clients in Alaska, but I really enjoy it because every day is different and there's nothing quite like that.
Well, yeah, because all of like every single marketing angle that that people come from, like, like you said, HVAC, like you said, banks, like you said, you have a portfolio of clients. And it's funny. So actually, I'm going to kind of go off topic, but so when you're going into a meeting, because we got a lot of coaches, we got a lot of network marketers, we got a lot of marketers and affiliate marketers, when you're going into a meeting to talk ads and to talk that kind of stuff, how do you like transition from coming out of like HVAC to go into like bank? Yeah. Like your 1215 is HVAC and your 115 is the bank. Like, how do you make that transition? And actually, what is the blending? What is the blending that holds true with both accounts?
That is a great question, but though I have a bit of a strange answer to that, it doesn't feel different for me because every client needs the same thing in a sense. They need their story to be told. They need to get their brand out there. They need either more clients or just customers or whatever it may be. They all are coming to us for one singular reason. Now, how we approach their marketing might be different. I don't necessarily feel that I have to shift mindsets. It's just like opening a new book and learning more about them.
That's good. So like whatever their value proposition, whatever their story is, you kind of absorb that like a sponge, and then you put your marketing genius on top of that and then create a message that basically more and more people will attract more and more of their audience.
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. I love to learn about companies too. That's probably my favorite thing. I want them to tell me their story. I want them to, tell me about their employees, tell me what they're doing in the community, how did they come to be, and what is it that they're passionate about.
That's something that we always talk about, because when in our course we actually have people define their avatar and they define their epiphany bridge. So basically what got them where they are now and who do they want to serve. And we actually talk about that in the foundations, and a lot of people don't, like a lot of business owners, like let's just talk about a plumber. They just kind of got thrown into being a plumber, and then all of a sudden they're like, oh, by the way, you need to market and you need to do this and you need sales and you need this and you need that. So yeah, a lot of times what's nice is what you said was you pull out their story.
Yeah.
So you can market their story in a way that they might not even know existed. But when you paint that picture, they're like, yes, that's me. And that's an amazing, like if you're listening right now and you want to paint your story like that, think about that, because maybe you just spill your beans to a marketing person. Like tell your story, how you did it, and let them massage it and put it the way that it does, and then it comes out like you're like, wow, that's exactly what I'm talking about, but it's said in such a different way that paints a really, really good picture. So like that's one thing that you guys, the audience, needs to think about.
Well, not only that, every company has their own story, and you can utilize that to your absolute advantage. Because you have multiple companies doing the same thing. They're all offering the same services, but they're not the same people. You want to appeal to your audience by telling them who you are. Maybe you want to go to a veteran-owned business. Maybe you want to go to a women-owned business. That's how you really get the clients that you're looking for, as opposed to the hard marketing, the hard advertising, the kind of down your throat, the old commercials that you would see, like come buy our sofas. That just doesn't appeal to people anymore. We want to see that more story branded imagery and marketing in general.
Yeah, the crazy Eddie or the the guerrilla marketing, that's like gone. I mean, it happens a lot on Facebook because you'll see it, but they're paying for it. They're paying for people to see that. But yeah, I like that, because branding and story is huge. I actually just listened to something a little bit ago, and it's funny that we're going to talk about Apple, but it was talking about how Apple their marketing is insane, so their sales are layups.
That makes sense. I mean, you don't really need to educate the audience on who Apple is. We all know who Apple is, but they position themselves as this like lifestyle in a way. You want to be a part of it without even the hard advertising. You don't even have to tell people that the latest iPhone or Apple product is out. They already know because they're doing the research themselves. That in and of itself is the ultimate marketing, the word of mouth, the wanting to be a part of the brand.
Yeah, I want to be the part of the title liberty. I want to show off what I'm doing. I want to talk about what I'm doing. Yeah, then nobody paid me to do it, but I'm going to talk about Apple, and I'm going to defend Apple like it's my sports team or something like that. And that's what happens. One of my biggest posts that I ever posted on Facebook was Apple or Samsung.
Oh no, I can only imagine.
Yeah, it was insane. Like comment after comment after comment, and then defending after defending. I was like, oh, this is great. This is perfect. So we talked about, who you are and what you do. We talked about how like you work with many different people, many different clients. So it's not just coaching. It's not just network marketers. It's not just, you actually talk to brick and mortar businesses.
Correct.
So tell me this whole thing. I mean, because I talked to Jen a while back, like 6 months ago, we had an interview and she came on and talked about it. But it's kind of actually come out like there's commercials. Apple's really doing a good job with the commercials. Like, I put my credit card in, blah, 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 and I did this, or I looked at 7 divorce attorneys. Like, you all have seen that. So tell us, like, what are the highlight points of that marketers need to look at with this new iOS 14 update?
So it really is about data protection. I mean, we're not trying to demonize Apple for doing this. It is something that people on the surface want. In fact, I don't know if you've been on Netflix lately with a lot of these documentaries coming out, but they're talking a lot about this for so many different reasons. They're even talking about the facial recognition software and how creepy that has become. As our smaller, like brick and mortar, mom and pop, or like small to medium sized businesses, we're not trying to take your data, like we're not trying to use that data for anything negative. Though I understand why they would kind of put those things in place. And people actually have the ability to opt in to sharing their data, which it's a good thing, but not your average Joe would know to do that. So one of the things that Facebook is doing to kind of combat all of this is you're having to basically claim your domain. So anytime you advertise, it's a great idea to have a website to begin with, of course. Not everyone does, though, to be honest with you. Sometimes they just have a Google page, and sometimes they don't even have that. So set all that stuff up for you. Make sure you're claiming your domain. And then some of the other things that they're making sure of is just you're only allowed to do certain pixel events. And I can talk a little bit about what a Facebook pixel is as well, for sure.
Yes, please.
So if you don't know what a pixel is, anytime you advertise and go to a website, you usually have a Facebook pixel or a Google tag on there. A Facebook pixel is just a string of code that lets you know where your client came from, and it kind of tracks what you're doing on a website. Now that's important for us marketers because we want to know, okay, I made this ad. I want to see what people are doing on the website. Are they adding items to the cart? Are they filling out the contact form? Et cetera, et cetera. It's not taking your data necessarily. It's simply tracking what your actions on a website are. It's important to do as well because then we can retarget people for the actions that they take. So the add to cart, for example. Say you go to a website, you add $20 worth of items to your cart, and like most of us, you're like, I don't really need to buy that. I'm good. And you back off. As marketers, we will typically take those events and retarget for them and add a gentle reminder that, hey, you still have items in your cart. Do you want to make a purchase? Now, 9 times out of 10, you're like, I don't need it. I don't need it. I don't need it. And then on that 10th time, of course, you purchase it.
Yeah.
So you have all of those things happening with the Facebook pixel. And they basically want to just have certain standard events that you can target for, as opposed to before all of these updates, truly you could target, I think it was like up to 25 events, and now they've narrowed it down to 8 events. essentially they're just trying to make it less less grabby for information, which I understand, but it's not as evil as they're trying to make it out to be when it comes to taking information or any kind of data. There is no personal information being utilized. But yeah, you would have to claim your domain, set up what are called aggravated events, which are those 8 events that you set out for yourself, whether or not it's purchases or contact form or find direction, and just set it up that way. That's basically like pixels in a nutshell there for you.
So they kind of streamline it somewhat for marketers. So there's not 25 events. Now there's only 8 events, which,
right.
I'm always optimistic. That's nice because I'm not scrolling through 20 different event tags. But like, what was like the biggest thing that they like kind of removed from the 25 to the 8? I mean, how did they streamline that down? I mean, what does that look like? What was the one that got taken away that everybody loved and it's not there anymore?
That's a good question. The good thing is you still have the ability to make those custom events. So let's say I want you to go to a certain page on my website, and the website is, momandpopshop.com/thank you/checkout, whatever it is. You can still set up those kinds of events. So really you're not as limited as you might think. You still have purchases, you still have complete registration and leads. Truly, the things that were taken away weren't as necessary. You can set up all the events that you really need to still. So it's still okay. It sounds terrible. Some of the other things, though, that they have changed, something called an attribution window. Now, that is one where reporting on marketing is going to get very complicated. In the past, you had what's called, obviously, an attribution window, and you had 28 days from the click and 28 days from the view that you can report on. So let's say you see an ad, and you ignore it, and you ignore it, and you ignore it, and then you go, oh, I remember seeing an ad for this, and you go to their website. In the back end reporting, it would still count that. Now they've cut it down to 1-day view, 7-day click. So only within this small period of time will you start to see those results. You may still be getting them, but it won't report on them.
Oh, that's narrowing the window for retargeting and basically seeing that.
Exactly. Yeah, that's another thing. Those custom audiences are shrinking quite a bit. And a custom audience, like I was saying earlier with the Facebook pixel, that's where you're building your custom audience from. So say you had 10,000 people land on your website. In the past, you can make a custom audience out of that. I don't necessarily know entirely how that's changing. That's more of a play it by ear kind of a thing with the updates, but I suspect that those audiences are going to get quite a bit smaller.
So that being said, with the attribution window, what are you like, without giving away the secret sauce, like, because I don't want you to do that. What measures do you have in place to set a client at ease that had 10,000 and now he's like, all of this iOS thing is free, this person's freaking out. Like, what is the measures that you're doing to set that client at ease, to let him know that these are the kind of the tips that we're doing to make sure you still get that similar result as you were getting when you were spending, $10,000 a month before, $3,000, whatever your ad spend was?
Well, I have a bit of a simple, if but different answer to that. So even though the attribution window has changed to the 7-day click, 1-day view, events are still happening. People are still going to your website, clicking on things and filling out forms. There's always a back end. Make sure you're checking your forms on your website. Make sure you have some kind of data information in place. I believe on WordPress, with some of the forms, you can actually set it up to where it will show you where traffic came from after someone filled out the form. So make sure you have some of those kinds of measures in place. We always have the ability to check the back end and show them that data, even if from the Facebook side of things, we can't show those kinds of numbers.
Okay. And then I'm loving this because we're talking ads and stuff. I really want to like add these questions. But so are you seeing like clients like scale with what's going on? Are you seeing people pulling the scale back on ad spend, or are you seeing them like really go more focused on their ideal clients, making those attribution windows very, very important, making the clicks very, very important? Like, what are you seeing as a trend in the market right now, a pullback or a push?
Well, honestly, it has a lot to do with client education. Not a whole lot of people know that this is happening in this particular way. Just even talking with you, and I'm sure we have a lot of marketers in the audience, and I'm sure they've kind of seen and understood a lot of this. Your typical client isn't going to know all of this kind of complicated information. So what we have done is taken our advertiser money and gone just to different platforms as well, trying different methods. We've done Pinterest, maybe even Twitter. We've done Google ads and YouTube. I mean, we've always done that kind of stuff in the past as well. However, now that we're seeing Facebook kind of take these measures, we're like, okay, well, we can still spend quite a bit of money on Facebook, but what else can we do? What other methods do we want to use to get your information in front of the right customers? So it's all just a matter of like balance. Do we want to continue doing just entirely Facebook, or do we want to move somewhere else?
Right. Okay. Awesome. So you, one of the questions I ask is that you put on here is like you said you've been doing ads for 5 years. So one of the questions you did that we put in here is how Facebook has changed over time.
Oh my goodness. Yes. Well, that's pretty profound. We talk about it all the time at work where
Jen loves talking about that.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Back in the day, and I say back in the day, but maybe like 3 or 4 years ago, you could toss like $50 into an ad or a boosted post. And I'm sure most people know the slight difference between the two. You boost a post directly from your Facebook page. Usually it's an organic piece of content. You hit boost post and you can show it to some people. Back in the day, $50 would get you so far. Obviously, it's going to cost more to get in front of more people nowadays. Another thing that's huge and has changed is who you can target, what you can target, what kind of demographics, what kind of interest can you target. I would say weekly, those are changing. Some things are added, some things are taken away. Facebook will always sort of gently notify you that that targeting option is no longer available. Some of the other things that have changed are industry-specific things such as finance, housing, employment. Once you have that under a special ad category, you can't target for certain things. So you can't target for zip codes, you can't target for income, which actually I completely agree with. I think it's great that they're trying to stop any kind of discrimination happening, but that didn't exist before.
Wow. No, that's very big. Because I remember like it was like the Wild Wild West. Like when I started doing mini chats, it was the Wild Wild West. I mean, you could send messages to everybody. So like, what are you seeing? What are you seeing like right now? What are you seeing the biggest mistake that like your agency? So outside of agency, it'll come back on. Outside of agency, like when you're seeing like a solopreneur, what suggestion would you give to a solopreneur or a smaller company? What mistakes would you say avoid these mistakes in your first couple of ads or your first year of what you're doing, you know, what you're building? Like, what are like the 2 mistakes that you're seeing that a lot of businesses are making that you could be like, don't do these?
Yeah, that's a great question. Not having some kind of funnel set up. That's probably the number one mistake. Sort of just landing people on a page or expecting things to happen without having bumpers in place, if you will. Making sure buttons are clickable, making sure everything is legible, making sure that it's not overwhelming for your audience. I would say most, regardless of what you're advertising, most people don't want to be advertised to. They don't want just to be bombarded with information. If they want more information, give them a way to have more information. Have downloadables. Have things that you can provide for them. That's number one. Having a very robust funnel setup.
Mm-hmm.
Another thing is not doing enough research into who your audience is. What kind of things do they like? What kind of imagery? What works best for them? Take the time and research. Look at other ads in the industry. Look at how people are successful. Make sure everything is branded. Everything has a story. People really want to look at things that are appealing to them. Again, they don't necessarily want advertisement to jump down their throats. Just make it as appealing and visually stimulating as possible. Utilize video. That's something that's huge nowadays. Make sure that you have a video and a story for your brand.
Wow, those are some huge nuggets. Like I like what you said is like you really want to define who you want to serve, and we talk about that in our course all the time. Like you really want to define who you want to serve. And one thing that I never thought about is when I'm defining who I want to serve, it's not so much my colors or my images, or the things that I like. It's the things that are appealing to the people that are landing on the website or the funnel that I want to take the next step. Does it appeal to them? That's a huge nugget for anyone that's taking notes, anyone that's doing any marketing. Like that is an amazing nugget. Like make sure it's about the person that is coming to your site that you want to sell. And then like I love what you said, like so many people build these gigantic, robust websites that have buttons that go everywhere. And I love what you said, like a funnel, like one in, one out, one in, one out, one in, one out. And you'll get more conversions and more things. A confused mind always says no.
That's a great phrase. That's so true. A confused mind always says no. Yeah. Giving too many options is another way to just really get people to not want to convert. People don't like to make quick and easy decisions unless it is the type of industry where it's a quick and easy decision to be made, which is rare anyway.
Yeah. They need to like know, like, and trust you. They need to create your story. They need to figure out where you are, who you do, what you do, why you do it. And like social proof is a big deal. Like when we created our social proof, oh my goodness, like we just sent people there and then they were like, all right, I'll buy. So like social proof was a big deal. So like
it is.
All right, so we're coming to the top of the half hour, and I told you I'd be very mindful of your time. So what I'd like to ask you is, you're in East Coast. The company is expanding everywhere. What would you say, like a marketer? What would be your biggest advice to a marketer that is, you know what? Let's just go. He's either seasoned or he's brand new. So I love to do both. Like, what's your biggest advice to someone that's either just getting into the industry or that's been around for a while? What's the biggest advice you give them to excel in 2021?
The biggest piece of advice for someone to excel in 2021, don't be afraid to test. Don't be afraid to try. You never have the exact answer. I will say that. Constantly be checking on things, constantly be checking new things. Everything changes within time. The algorithm is going to change. Your audience might like something new. They might be going somewhere else. Don't just stick with one thing. Always challenge yourself. Always try, always test. Yeah, that's probably my biggest piece of advice. I think that applies to most things, for sure.
Yeah, that's a big one. Always test, always be optimizing. Make your decisions on data. I always tell people this: don't make your decisions in the valley, or on emotions. Make your decisions on data. Yeah. Like just because you love the piece doesn't mean, like we talked about, just doesn't mean your audience like appeals to your audience. So yeah, that's a huge one. Test and don't be afraid. That is, like, guys, that's marketing 101. Testing. That's what it is.
Constant testing, constantly changing, hitting something to go live and just saying, run with it. That's great and all, but you'll never see the exact results that you're looking for. You might just be racking your brain like, what is going on? Well, have you tested? Have you maybe tried a video versus an image? Have you maybe tried a collection? Or they have Canvas ads on Facebook where you can make a tiny little website. Like, there's so many different things that you can do. Don't just run with one thing. Constantly test and try.
That's big. Well, Sarah, thank you so much for your time. Constantly test and try. I will actually drop a link to your Facebook or to Beacon, so that way if anyone has any questions, more questions that they wanted or connect with you. I know you guys do amazing work, phenomenal people. Like they're like family to me. So Beacon Media in Anchorage, Alaska, one of the well, they're everywhere now, but Beacon Media, just totally like, I love you guys, and I know you guys do great work. And again, thank you for taking the time out for helping educate some of my listeners on iOS 14 and the difference in Facebook and all of the things that you talked about. It's such an amazing interview. I appreciate you and everybody. Make sure you listen to the full outro, because I always give something away for free. So I will see all of you guys on the next episode of Burnt Phone Marketing Radio.
Thank you.
Are you tired of those lame Facebook groups that provide no value? Well, our Facebook group is awesome. Go to unlockthefbgroup.com and get access to our Facebook group, where you will be able to find interviews of top network marketers and Q&As where you can jump in and talk to them live. We also have massive training. We provide a bunch of free tools. So jump into that group. Again, that's unlockthefbgroup.com. We'll ask you a few questions in mini chat, because that's what we do, and make sure that you're not a spammer and get you into the group right away. So again, go to unlockthefbgroup.com and don't be a spammer.